Hello students, welcome to this video, and in this video we are going to discuss chapter 27 of The Edible Woman written by Margaret Atwood. So before going to chapter 27, let us look at what happens in chapter 26. In chapter 26, we saw that Marian and Peter have reached their apartment, and as they are climbing up the stairs, Marian tells Peter that she has invited some friends of hers. And when Peter asks Marian who the friends are, etc., she immediately regrets calling these people because Peter says that, look, I would like to talk to your friends and know a bit more about your private life. And also he adds that, bit more about your private life. So he also adds that I didn't know that you had so many friends. So she has committed two mistakes. One, she has invited, from her perspective, she has invited a lot of people, around 9 people, and she has also unnecessarily exposed Peter to Duncan, Trevor, and Fish, because what she fears is Trevor does not know that Marian is going to get married, so he is going to give a very surprise reaction, and we don't know what is going to happen. Remember, Marian did not reveal to Trevor and Fish that she's going to get married, but Duncan knows. So then they go to the to the apartment. She's not able to call off the invitation to these three people, Duncan, Trevor, and Fish, because the phone is in the kitchen, and Peter has started arranging the platters, the plates, the bowls, etc. So again, there is a very. She enters the apartment. The apartment is described, and it is made very clear that inside the apartment there may not be enough furniture for everyone to sit. So what happens is Peter calls her into the kitchen, and before that she looks at her reflection in the cupboard mirror, and she has an experience there. She doesn't like her reflection. One, she thinks that it's not a complete Marian that she's seeing, and the other thing is Peter comes and admires her reflection, and he says that you should be wearing more of red. Okay, so Marian is not exactly happy about listening when she listens to this compliment, and then she has an experience with Peter's clothes. We saw that in detail, and then Peter gets. They are in the kitchen. They are arranging the platters and the bowls, etc. Peter says that you should wear red more often, and he says, "I love you." When Marian asks this question, he gets the camera ready, and he's about to take a photograph of Marian. When Marian hesitates, she goes rigid, and what happens is she becomes very. She feels that that something terrible is going to happen. It's a very panicky reaction, and Marian chides herself when when there's a knock at the door. She realizes that it's after all a photo that that Peter is trying to take. Okay, it's only a camera. That's what she says. But we are going to see such panicky reactions in chapter 27 also. So let's begin with chapter. So this is how chapter 26 ends. Chapter 27 begins with the guests arriving, and the first guests to arrive are the three office virgins. So the three office virgins are arriving first, and they are surprised. Each is surprised that the other has been invited and annoyed, of course. And மற்ற ரெண்டு பேரும் எதுக்கு இன்வைட் பண்ணாங்கன்னு Marian கிட்ட ஒரு மாதிரி ஒரு questioning look. Okay, they thought that each thought that they would have these single men. எப்படி அவங்க tempt பண்ணிருக்காங்கன்னு பாருங்க. Marian has said that there will be a lot of single men in the party, so you can come and you can have you will have a lot of chance to impress men. So they go into the bedroom. Okay, they overcome that surprise and that annoyance. They go into the bedroom, they keep the coats, and remember that mirror in which Marian sees her reflection. They use the same mirror to check themselves, check whether everything has been, whether they are properly dressed, whether they have to adjust something in their makeup. And they have dressed themselves in a very meticulous manner. A lot of thought has gone into the way they have dressed. Lucy is in purple velvet, that is the color. Emmy is in pink chiffon, and Millie is wearing a pale blue satin dress. So these are they have put in a lot of thought into that, and in fact Millie is the most nervous among the three, and each of them expected a version of Peter, not Peter exactly, or version of Peter, to walk through the door and propose to them. அவங்க என்ன நினைக்கிறாங்கன்னா Marian has got into this, has become is entering marriage. So why not us? Okay. So, and Marion wonders, Siri, okay, Peter or version one day, what if they meet these three office virgins meet Duncan, Trevor, and Fish? In fact, this thought had come to her in chapter 21. Please check chapter 21 when they go to the museum, page 230. When Duncan talks about Trevor and Fish, அவ யோசிக்கிறா யார் வந்து லூசி ஆர் மில்லிக்கு சரியா இருப்பாங்க அப்படின்ட்டு. பேஜ் 230 செக் பண்ணி பாருங்க. So if these three virgins meet Duncan, Trevor, and Fish, and let us imagine that they have a confrontation, ரெண்டு பேரும் ஃபேஸ் டு ஃபேஸ் மீட் பண்ணிக்கிறாங்கன்னா, she imagines an exodus. எல்லாரும் they will not be good partners. So one group will exit through the door, the other group will exit through the window. அதாவது விண்டோல இருந்து குதிச்சிடுவாங்களாம். That is the impression that is impression that Marion gets when she sees, certain couples will not, ரெண்டு பேரும் சேர்ந்தா, ரெண்டு பேரும் ஃபேஸ் டு ஃபேஸ் வந்தா என்ன ஆகும் அப்படின்னு யோசித்து பார்க்கறேன். ஸோ ஒரு குரூப் வந்து டோர் வழியா போயிடுவாங்களாம், இன்னொரு group they will jump out of the window. Remember, they are in the 7th floor. So this is just an imagination that Marion gets. Okay, so after this, actually she realizes that that these people are probably the most improbable invitees that she has ever called. இவங்களை கூப்பிட்டுட்டேனே அப்படின்னு யோசிக்கிறான். Okay, Marion thinks that they are not probably the best persons to be invited to such a party. So she realizes that Duncan, Trevor, and Fish will not fit into the party. In the party அவங்க இன்வைட் பண்ணிருக்க வேண்டாம் அப்படின்னு this is her thought. Anyway, it is too late. So, and then the soap men come along. They come along with their wives, and Peter has played that music on the hi-fi music system. By hi-fi music system, அப்போ உள்ள cassette recorder. Okay, cassettes were not there in 1960s, if I'm right. The music player. Okay, அது இந்த hi-fi music system 1960s எப்படி இருந்ததுன்னா நீங்க கூகுள்ல போய் பாருங்க, you will know. I mean, if I have a chance, I'll show it to you. And every time someone knocks on the door, they immediately these three office virgins, they look at the door and in the expectation of meeting some single person, because all these people are married. So, and the conversation begins. The Marion takes all the wives into the bedroom where they deposit their coats. போய் அங்க இது பண்ணிட்டு அவங்க அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணிட்டு தன்னோட மிரர்னா வந்துட்டா எல்லாருமே மிரர் பார்ப்பாங்க. So and Peter distributes drinks, and the snacks also go around. Peanuts and potato chips go around. And what happens is, during the conversation, எல்லாரும் பேச ஆரம்பிச்ச உடனே there are two islands of conversation that is going on. One island is where the men are are towards the hi-fi side. அந்த மியூசிக் பிளே பண்ற இடத்துல அவங்க வந்து எல்லாருமே குரூப் ஆகி ஒரு குரூப்பா நிக்கிறாங்க. And the other group is the wives who are on the sofa side. They are a different group. And somehow Marion thinks that அவங்க நடுவுல there is a no man's land. The no man's land na என்னன்னா, usually between two countries which are forget about US and Canada, but say like between Pakistan and India, okay, usually there is a no man's land. Between North Korea and South Korea, there is no man's land. So அது மாதிரி no man's land create ஆகுது. And so unfortunately the three office virgins are stuck with these wives, and they have to listen to their conversation, and well, they don't seem to be happy. Okay, so actually Marion felt bad for these three office virgins. ஐயோ நம்ம இவங்களையும் கூப்பிட்டு தப்பு பண்ணிட்டோமா, இந்த மாதிரி ரெண்டு குரூப்ல பாவம் இவங்க இந்த வைஃப்ஸை வந்து ஒரு கன்வர்சேஷன் கிட்ட மாட்டின்ட்டாங்களே அப்படின்னு இது பண்றாங்க. So Marion goes around distributing the snacks to everyone, and then the next set of guests arrive, Clara, Joe, and there is a surprise guest who comes. So Clara and Joe arrive along with Leonard Slank. Actually Lenna முதல்ல பார்க்க முடியல, Clara வராங்க, Joe வராங்க, அவங்க பின்னாடி behind these two people Leonard Slank comes, and Marion is shocked. She's so shocked that she drops one mushroom which runs along and disappears under the hi-fi set. So that is how shocked she is. கையில இருந்து சர்வ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. சர்வ் பண்ணும்போது இந்த மாதிரி she drops a mushroom, one mushroom there. because of the surprise and shock that she gets when she sees Len. And Peter was very happy to see Len, and he shakes Len's hand and he says, "Look, I need to talk to you. How are you? How are you? I wanted to talk. Written a பேசணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன்." அப்படின்னு பீட்டர் சொல்லும் பொழுது Marian immediately pulls Clara towards her and she says, "Look, why did you bring him here?" And immediately Clara says that Len had come to their house just as they were leaving for the party, and he had actually the babysitter had already come. And what had happened was he said that there was some story that he told about some woman with whom he was having trouble, and also he said that he's afraid to go back to his apartment. So he had mentioned Len had come to their house, and he had mentioned that there was some problem with some woman. So this story he had told them. Obviously, he's mentioning this woman is none other than Ainsley, but he is not mentioning her name. Okay, and he said that he was afraid to go back to his apartment, and he looked very, very poor in shape. So Clara and Joe had thought that it's better that they bring Len to the party so that he does not wander off somewhere else. Okay, because that's what they feared. Okay, and they had also made some temporary arrangement where after this party, he'll be staying in Arthur's room. Apartment. Why does Clara do this? Because Clara and Len were classmates. Clara, Len, and Marian were classmates. So obviously they want to help their friend. And so Len had luckily not mentioned any names. If he had mentioned names, obviously Clara and Joe would not have brought Len to the party. But Len, it's very surprising. Marian wonders why Len has come, because he would have known, he could have stayed with Clara and Joe's kids in the house and avoided, coming here. He would have known that Ainsley may come to the party. So anyway, Marian knows that there could be a confrontation between Len and Ainsley, because Ainsley is also going to come to the party. Well, she can't do anything about it. Now that they are there, she cannot do anything much. So Marian knows that there is going to be a confrontation, but anyway, she wonders how Ainsley will look at Len's presence in the party. But that later, okay. We're anyway going to see what happens later in the during this in this chapter during the party. And then Len is immediately surrounded by the three office virgins who see him as a potential. Len is single, and he's in television, so he's surrounded by these three office virgins who talk to him. That is, they are surrounding him in such a way that he cannot escape anywhere. So, and he's having in one hand, he's having a beer mug or a beer stein, as they call it, and he's trying to answer them as best as he can. And then what happens is Joe has a conversation with Joe, takes Marian aside, and he talks to Marian. And what he does is he first thanks Marian for inviting them, because he says that, after their marriage, it has been very difficult for Joe and Clara to go outside. That is one thing. The second thing he says, he also says that, Clara is actually talking to the soap wives, okay? So Joe and Marian are able to have this conversation without Clara overhearing this. See, Clara has gone to university, and because of that, there is a particular problem that Joe points out. We'll see what that problem is. Now, this is a very important conversation. Precisely because, keep this conversation in mind, because towards the end of the novel, you will understand what effect this talk of Joe has on Marian. Okay, so after thanking Marian that he invited them, he says, "Look, Clara does not get any chance to go out. So good that you invited her." And Clara is talking to one of the soap wives, and so they are able to have this conversation without Clara listening into this conversation. But look at what happens. This is the theory that Joe proposes. He says, look, any woman who gets educated at a university has a mind of her own. Okay, this is indicated even in that chapter in which Marian tells her family, she goes and visits her family during Christmas, And this thing comes, if you have a mind of your own, you become a thinking human being and you start doing things which the society doesn't consider to be normal. So apada normal arka Marian by choosing marriage. But look at Joe's theory. Look at his theory very carefully. If a woman gets educated at university, she gets a mind. She becomes intellectual. She is treated like a thinking human being. But when she gets married, which eventually she does, that core gets destroyed. So he explains what this core is. He says that when you get married, you take up a feminine role, which says passivity is the passivity. Or docile, you should be docile or passive. You cannot be dynamic. So core is, this word is not used by the novelist. I'm using it. Okay, the core demands dynamic action. The feminine role demands docile and passive action, role. Passive action, passive role. So a married woman allows her core to be taken over by her husband. This is what Joe tells Marian. And he continues, he says, when the kids come, the woman becomes hollow. Okay, and the core is destroyed. So she's not able to balance her university educated self with her mother and wife self. And the personalities, they keep on clashing, and eventually her core gets destroyed. The intellectual woman in her gets destroyed. And so the solution that Joe gives is very strange. In spite of him being a tutor at the professor at the university, not professor exactly, he's teaching at the university. He says that it's better that women don't go to the university. Okay, and in fact, he points out because this university education is is creating all these problems, and in fact, he points out that among his students, he would like to discuss this with his women students, but he does not because it will disturb them. So he doesn't discuss all this with his women students. Actually, he uses the word female students. Remember, this is a novel written in 1960s when the word female did not have a derogatory sense. Otherwise, you should not supposed to this female. The opposite gender, especially men, when they refer to women, they should not say female. But anyway, so Joe continues. So Marian in the core, the word core, it reminds her of apples and of worms, which gnaw their way to the core of the apple. So Joe continues and he says that women don't realize that this is happening to them. This is a very strange thing. And what happens is, it happens to them. They don't realize that it's happening, but eventually it happens. So Marian actually looks at Joe with a lot of respect and with a lot of affection. And she says she wanted to reassure Joe that Clara's core was not destroyed. Remember, he says all this because he teaches at the university and he has seen how women lose out on a life of the mind after getting married. Okay. So Ainsley, remember all this is in the 1960s. Things have changed a lot now. They are going to change even more as time progresses. Anyway, so let us not comment about this right now. So Ainsley enters and Marian immediately goes to warn her of Len's presence. Ainsley is actually wearing, she looks nice actually because she is going to become a mother. So all those, there are certain hormones that are released. That the novelist's version here, she says, that her skin glowed. That's a description that Marian gives, the novelist gives through Marian, and that is because of all the hormones that she's, that mother usually produces. And remember, her stomach does not look bulged at all. It's not bulged. And Len, she wants about Len, and she says that he's drunk. Immediately, Ainsley says, "Look, we both are." Ainsley is not bothered about Len's presence, and she says that we both are adults, mature adults, and we should know how to behave. I am not worried about his presence. We both are mature adults, and we should know how to behave in such a situation. And I mean, in the party. Okay, so she doesn't bother, and she's quite okay with it. Okay, and in fact, she says, "Look, he's not just drunk; he's also upset." And she also says that, "Look, he went and Len is going to stay with Joe and Clara in Arthur's room. Arthur is the first child, if you remember. Okay, stay with Clara and Joe." And he looked very disoriented when he reached Clara and Joe's house. Okay, so he says இல்ல நான் வந்து பேச கூட போறது இல்ல, டோன்ட் வரி அப்படின்னு அவங்க இது பண்றாங்க. So this just one thing. As the party progresses, what happened in in chapters 8 and 9, in chapter 8 especially, Peter actually has started sounding louder and louder. I have not mentioned it here because that is not very significant. And so this is fine. All the men and women have started talking. That has been going on for quite some time. Ainsley has joined. Len is also there. So let us see what really happens. So Ainsley assures her that she won't even talk. Okay, she won't even talk. Okay, so the party progresses. Let us see what happens. If there is a confrontation between Len and Ainsley. So as the party progresses, so Ainsley says that she's not going to talk to Len. But as the party is progressing, the soapmen, when they see Ainsley, they introduce themselves and they start talking to Ainsley. The women, they are also talking in a pitch which is very rising in pitch. We'll ஒரு 4 கட்டன்னு வச்சுக்கோயேன், 4th pitchலன்னு வச்சுக்கோயேன், in a very high pitch ன்னு வச்சுக்கோயேன். But they are not happy that their husbands are talking to Ainsley. Marian goes to the kitchen to get a drink for Ainsley, and she sees that it's become shabby. It's become very, it has slowly become disorderly. And as she is coming back from the kitchen, she looks into the bedroom. She sees that Lucy is talking to Peter. Lucy is intelligent. She has abandoned Len and she's talking to Peter. But look, Peter is off the market. Peter has a camera in his hand and he looks at Marian and he says, "No, it is photo time. Don't worry." Though, Marian is not exactly jealous of or angry at Lucy for talking to Peter. But the very fact that Lucy is giving it a try, or attempt பண்றா அப்படிங்கிறது Marianக்கு பிடிக்கல. Okay, so that she indicates. And then Marian gives Ainsley the drink. She is surrounded by the soapmen. And what happens is Len is looking at her from across the room. He's on the opposite side of the room. Millie and Emily are still talking to her when the next set of guests arrive. And they are Trevor. Trevor is knocking on the door. When he knocks on the door, he's not. Marian opens it, and Trevor is not able to recognize Marian. And Trevor does not come alone. He comes along with Duncan and Fish, and also one other lady, girl student. Okay, because they are now coming from a graduate English party. That much we know from the previous chapter. So when Marian receives Trevor, he's not able to recognize her, and then later he recognizes her. And then he says you should wear red more often. Fisher is behind Trevor, and then they have also come with another. Marian refers to her as a female figure, but she must be a lady student. Okay, one of their graduate students. So avangaloda batchmates are irupanga. But then what happens is Duncan does not enter, and in fact he says something about her dress which Marian does not like. Marian is actually annoyed because of that, and he says, masquerade in a enkita sollala. What is a masquerade? The masquerade is any party or in a carnival or any gathering in which men and women dress up in costumes to hide who they really are, or they wear masks to hide their faces, partially or fully covering their face. Okay, so that is called as a masquerade. Masquerade also means when you show that you are someone else when you are not. For example, a person showing off calls himself or herself as a doctor when he or she is actually not. You can use the word masquerade there also. This person is masquerading as a. So this is essentially a party where it also means hiding the truth. So she doesn't like this term, and actually this conversation is held in the hallway. அவங்க அந்த காரிடார்ல அபார்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கு முன்னாடி இருக்கிற காரிடார்ல அவங்க பேசிட்டு இருக்காங்க. He only likes the earrings and he says he doesn't want to meet Peter because it would be a bad thing because one of them is going to evaporate. Okay, and he says it's too loud, and then he would like to go to the laundromat. So Trevor, Fish, and that other lady student do not know that Duncan has left. He just goes, and Marian feels like running after him, but she doesn't, because she knows that she has to be back in the party. Otherwise, people will start missing her. Okay, so this is what happens. Duncan, till now, he has not met Peter, and he does not want to meet Peter even now. So Marion goes back into the apartment and meets Fisher and that lady student. So when Marion goes back to the apartment from the hallway, see, hallwayங்கிறது இவங்க யூஸ் பண்ற ஹால்ங்கிறது இவங்க யூஸ் பண்ற term corridorனு வச்சுக்கோங்க. Okay, so நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ற term corridor. Trevor is wearing a suit and Fish is wearing a sweater, okay, and turtleneck sweater, and a sweater which comes up to your neck, okay, which is very common. Which is very common in North America and in England, of course. Okay, and you will find that in most parts of North India in winter. So Ainsley, when notice பண்றானா, Marion notice பண்றானா, Ainsley is talking to Len in a low, urgent voice, almost whispering to Len. Immediately Len no reaction, no, damn it, you will never get me. So Ainsley என்ன பண்றா, she smashes her the glass that she is holding, her glass onto the floor. Okay, drop பண்றா. So immediately all conversation is stopped, and the people are looking at Ainsley, and all conversation stops, and immediately they are looking at Ainsley and Len. So this is a very dangerous situation. Now let us see what happens here. It is very clear that Ainsley is trying to push Len into making a decision. So since Ainsley wants to push Len to make a decision, what she does is she makes an announcement, and the point is that she has smashed the glass, so everyone is listening to them. Ainsley makes the decision: we are going to have a baby. அப்படின்னு announcement பண்ணிருந்தோம் பப்ளிக்கா. உடனே there are gasps, அப்படிங்கிறாங்க, soap wives and all the other women, and the men are encouraging Len. Oh, very good Len, not a boy அப்படிங்கிறாங்க. So Len is embarrassed. என்னடா அது, நம்ம ஏதோ நினைச்சிட்டு வந்தோம், அது why is she embarrassing me in front of everyone நினைச்சிட்டு, he says, he calls her a rotten bitch. Sorry, I'm saying this because again it's quoted in the novel, and you remember he's drunk. Okay, so then he says, then he becomes very cool. He pulls Ainsley towards him, and he says, that's right folks, we are going to have a christening, we are going to have a baptism in utero, and he declares that I'm going to name the baby after myself. I'm going to name the baby after myself. I hereby name it after me. அப்படின்னு declare பண்ணிட்டு, he lifted his beer stein, his beer mug, and pours all the contents on Ainsley's head. So this is what happens. Since Ainsley has embarrassed Len, now Len embarrasses Ainsley. It's tit for tat. Okay, and so there is everyone is shocked. Okay, so the first reaction is everyone is shocked, because no one expected such a reaction from Peter. இதெல்லாம் தெரியாது. Peter is not in the scene at all, and what Peter does is, okay, Peter comes out with his camera, and he thinks that this is some sort of a game, and he takes a picture, he takes a photo, and he says, good, now that we've got the entire party going அப்படின்னா எல்லாருக்கும் சில பேருக்கு கோவம் வந்துடுது, என்னப்பா பீட்டர் இப்படி பண்றேன்னா, they just stare at Peter. And what happens is, after this, Len doesn't speak to her at all, but Ainsley is very embarrassed. So what she does is, she tries to make her way to the bathroom, and immediately the women try to help her by the women try to help Ainsley. But even before that, there is a twist here. Not a twist exactly. Someone comes, and that is Fisher Smythe. Fisher comes to help her, and what he does is, the first thing he does, he takes out his his turtleneck sweater and gives it to her to dry herself. Okay, and gives it to Ainsley to dry herself. So this is what happens. This is the embarrassing incident that happens, confrontation that happens between Len and Ainsley. So as Fisher is helping Ainsley, they go and she tries to dry herself. Okay, so Marion then notices, see, I think no, she thinks that May Ainsley and Fisher will come and join the party again, but she notices that they are not there. Okay, she notices that later Ainsley, Fisher, and Len were missing. Actually, she notices the first thing that she notices is that the party has come back to normal. The floor has been cleaned, and so she goes into the kitchen, which appears to be hit by a flash flood. அவ்வளவு ஷாபியா இருக்கு. எல்லா இடத்துலயும் கிளாஸ் இருக்கு, சிங்குக்குள்ள கிளாஸஸ் இருக்கு. There is food, ஃபுட்டோட இதெல்லாம் வேற இருக்கு, ரெமினன்ஸ் ஆஃப் ஃபுட் இருக்கு. So she's a bit surprised, but then she comes back and then she feels happy that all these guests are there. She pours herself a drink, and as she's drinking it, she's happy that all these people are there. Millie and Emmy are having fun, and so is Trevor. Okay, so Trevor is also there, and he's talking to the people as if he knows all of them for a long time. And Peter is taking photos as if it were a home movie. Home movie is what we will call as a video. Okay, and it is at this time இதெல்லாத்தையும் Marian பார்க்கும் பொழுது she has a vision of her future, of not her future, of the future, in which she asks herself, how would Peter look when she is 45? This is a very interesting question, because remember, I am turning 45 very soon, that 10-15 days. No, not 10, yeah, within 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, so I asked myself this question when I was 25, when I joined this college, and when I had spent a year. Remember, life is very smooth as long as you are disciplined, as long as you know what you want, and as long as you you confine it to 2 or 3 minimum things. But anyway, I don't want to go away take some other path, some other argument. The point is, this entire vision gives Marian a new perspective of her relationship with Peter. இதுக்கப்புறம் அவ பீட்டர் எப்படி பார்க்கறாங்கிறது நம்ம பார்க்க போறோம். Okay, this vision teaches her something. The point is that she sees, so she thinks of him as a 45-year-old person. Then when she opens a door, she opened a door and she saw Peter balding. He had a he was having a barbecue. A barbecue is a place where you skewer, or it's a special cooking equipment with which you have coals below, and you can cook, or skewer, or smoke food above. Okay, and usually it's used for smoking or cooking steak and other meat varieties. Okay, so I'll show you what a barbecue is, if you want to get a better idea of what a barbecue is. So this is a good example of a barbecue. This is, I told you, skewer. Skewer, it is ஒரு இதுல வச்சு skewer பண்றது. This we saw again in the dinner that Marian had with Trevor, Fish, and Duncan. So கீழே சால்கோல் இருக்கும், அதுல வச்சு இது பண்ணுவாங்க. And this is a very common thing to during holidays. July the 4th, which is Independence Day in US, it's barbecue day. Okay, so and usually it will be done during summers, not during winters. So Peter இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு விஷன்ல பாக்குறா, but she is not able to, அவளை பார்க்கல, she is missing. Marian was not there. Marian is not able to see herself in that vision. So she thinks that she is in the wrong room. So enna pandra, she opens another door where she sees all these soap women leaving. சரி, பார்ட்டி விட்டு கிளம்புறாங்க போல் இருக்குன்னு பார்த்தா அவளை she's again in the vision. She's still in her vision. And இது அவளுக்கு ட்ரீம் மாதிரின்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், விஷன்னா ட்ரீம் மாதிரின்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். She sees a small figure, a 2-dimensional figure in red, and she realizes that she looks like a paper woman. This is not the real Marian. Marian is not able to identify herself with the figure whom she sees there. Then she says, "Oh no, this is not the real thing." So let us. She ran to the next door and opens it. Now she's in reality. Peter was there. He takes a photo, and this is for real. So she immediately says, "There are no more doors. She cannot escape anywhere." Marian shouts no, and immediately Peter asks, "What is wrong, darling?" And she says it startled her a lot. And then so he says, "Look, I don't think you can hold your drink." By holding your drink means, even when the moment someone has 3 or 4 drinks, they immediately start reacting very strangely. So உனக்கு அதான் பிரச்சனையா இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு அவங்க அவர் சொல்றாரு. But the point is, she did not want to be photographed. She did not want to be, so now from here, Marion's reactions are going to be a bit strange, but just wait for the end of the chapter. So Peter assures her, look, I never took a photograph of you. I took a photograph of Trigger on the other side. Then why do you react like this? He carries on and he goes and takes photographs of all the others. But Marion had decided she wanted to escape. She wanted to get as far as Duncan. எங்க Duncan இருக்கானோ நான் அங்க போயிடுறேன். Okay? அப்படின்னு அவன் நினைக்கிறான். Okay? And she dialed Duncan's number. She goes to the kitchen, dials Duncan's number. He does not pick up. And so she gets her coat and she listens to Peter making an announcement for a group portrait. And all the guests are, assembled there. Okay? So she made her way to the door. பின்னாடி போய் she goes and escapes. See, why she escapes is she feels that Peter is hunting with his camera and that Marion is the target. More so because she is wearing a red dress. And the red dress போட்டுக்க கூடாதுடா ஐயோ அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவ வந்து she wants to escape. And what she's afraid of this flashlight. She feels that this flashlight from the camera is going to do something to her, something like killing her. So she escapes that, and then what really happens is she goes down, and as she reaches out, she realizes that she has drunk too much. I mean, she has taken some drink பண்ணா உங்களோட capillaries ஏதோ ஆகும் அப்படின்னு இருக்கு. So what she does, she runs. Okay, I am fearing that Peter may follow her. Okay, so then she calms herself down and she goes to the laundromat. Okay, so she knows that the moment she reaches the laundromat, she will meet Duncan, and that she can, that she will feel better. Okay, so this entire thing of looking at the vision and all that has overwhelmed her. But remember, this happens because my guess is, okay, and we look at as the novel progresses, you'll understand it better. We're almost towards the end. What happens is somehow she feels that her core is being destroyed if she's going to get married. Okay, not just to Peter, but just the very act of marriage is going to destroy her. So let us quickly look at what happens. It's a fairly long chapter. Let's look at what we saw in chapter 27. Chapter 27 is all about the party. Okay, so we see the guests arriving. The 3 office virgins come and they are dressed for the party. And then Marion wonders what the reaction of the 3 office virgins will be when they meet Duncan, Trevor, and Fish. And then the soapmen arrive along with their wives, and then the music is played, and then the room becomes very noisy, and they divide themselves into 2 groups. Where there are 2 groups, there are 2 islands, and there is no man's land. And then Clara and Joe arrive, and from here some trouble starts happening because they have brought Len with them, and they give an explanation why they have brought Len with them. Len looks very disturbed. They feel that if they leave Len alone, he will wander off somewhere. And obviously, Len has not told them that Ainsley has caused all this problem. Okay, so Len is surrounded by the 3 virgins, and they try to talk to him, and he's having a conversation with them. And then Joe has a conversation with Marion in which he says that, look, whatever happens, a woman's core is destroyed once she gets married. She may have led an intellectual life if she had gone to the university, but that gets destroyed when she decides to get married. And he has his own theory for the solution is that women should not be going to the university. Then they will be able to save themselves. So then Ainsley enters, and Marion tells her that, look, Len is there. He's probably drunk. And Ainsley says, look, we will behave like mature adults. So when Marion goes into the kitchen and comes out, Ainsley is talking to the soapmen, and then Trevor, Fisher, and Duncan arrive along with a lady student, with another woman. And Duncan doesn't enter the apartment. He wishes her well, and he says, look, this would have been like a masquerade. இதுல வந்து ஒரு பார்ட்டின்னு சொல்ல, இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பார்ட்டின்னு சொல்லவே நான் வந்திருக்கவே மாட்டேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு he goes to laundromat. Actually, Marion is a bit annoyed when he makes such comments, but anyway, she goes back into the apartment only to see Ainsley trying to force Len into a decision, and Len being pushed. And what happens is he pours the beer on Ainsley's head. Obviously, he's drunk. He's pushed by Ainsley, and he pours beer on her. So, just after this, the party comes back to normal. Everyone is having, a nice time, and we see the guests are happy. And it is at this time that Marion has a vision. She has a vision of herself. No, sorry, of Peter. In the future, when he is 45, he's not 26, so 20 years from now. And then what she sees is that she's not able to identify herself in that. So she realizes that she doesn't have any place in Peter's future. The Peter and Marion together don't have a future. So that is the conclusion. And when it comes back to reality, she does not want to be photographed at all. So to escape from not being photographed and to escape from Peter's presence, she runs out without anyone noticing, and she makes her way to the laundromat. So with that, we complete chapter 27, a fairly long chapter. Please await the next video in which we'll be discussing chapter 28. So thank you, best of luck, and goodbye.